each of our regional chapters. Thank you for hitting record there, Susan, for us. And of course, we have a jam-packed agenda for you today, where we're going to have the opportunity to hear a little bit about what's going on at the national and state level. As you know, GAC is right around the corner, so we are lucky enough to have Matt Willie, who will be joining us to give us a few pointers and tips. We also have our very own Bobby Grady, who will be joining us today to share some exciting updates from the foundation. Biggest thing to keep in mind here, y'all, both for you as a credit union, but also as chapters, there are additional grant opportunities, and I know Bobby would love to see those funds be put to great use by your credit unions and your chapters. We'll also hear of a few quick compliance updates, and again, if you're looking for content at an updated meeting, we did just have the opportunity to update our chapter speakers bureau and have a lot of great compliance topics on there for you. And then we'll continue talking about some of the great things that you all have been working on throughout this year, whether some of the things that have already been completed or on the calendar for 2024. We'll also do a little bit of brainstorming to hear some of maybe those new and exciting events, while providing the opportunity for any feedback and networking. If you have questions for your fellow chapter leaders about upcoming events, wonderful time to do so there. And then a quick sneak peek at some additional fun activities to come later on this year, including our biannual chapter leaders retreat, as well as some updates on our continuing evolution of chapters. But of course, the biggest thing with these calls, along with our chapters, is that we have the opportunity to network with each other. So Susan Lee, our Florida member engagement consultant, will be hosting our call for us, and I know she has some fun poll questions to get us started. But as we continue on, please don't hesitate to unmute, use the chat box, and looking forward to today's call with you all. Hey, Susan.
All right. Well, thanks for that, Alicia. And I'm excited to have you guys all here today. Looks like we've got a great group. And sorry about any confusion with that broken link this morning, but we've got that squared away. Looks like everyone found their way here. So with that, we are going to go ahead and we're going to get started with an advocacy update. Matt Willie's going to start us off strong today. Matt, you want to jump right in?
Yeah, good morning. Good afternoon. I don't know what time it is anyway. So I apologize. I was a couple minutes late. We or a minute or two late. We actually just finished sending an email to the entire Georgia legislature. And so I was kind of in the middle of doing that, and I will give you all an update on what that was about in a second. But for those who don't know me, my name is Matt Willie. I am the Deputy Director of Grassroots Advocacy. I joined LSCU over a year ago now, and I put a few kind of fun facts about myself here. In case you don't know me, I grew up in a really small town. Both my parents own businesses, and I have a kiddo. He's 6, going on 27 apparently. But if you ever see me and I look like I need coffee, please hand it to me, because I probably do. I'm a big I came my last job before this, I was in Montana. So I've worked all over the place, but I've been in the South for about 10 years or so. But in my last position, I was actually in out west. So I'm a big mountains guy, but I do love the beach. I was actually at St. Mark's this weekend, down at the Wildlife Refuge, all sorts of things. And then if I'm ever in your city and you want to endear yourself to me, give me a breakfast burrito suggestion, and I'll love you forever. So that's just a few quick things about me. Also, the other thing I wanted to let y'all know is I come to the credit union movement pretty from a long time ago. My first credit union, I became a member in 2008. I'm not sure if you probably do remember this. There's a little bit of a financial crisis back in the day. And I was in grad school right around this time, kind of coming out of grad school, figuring out what I was going to do with myself, and looked around and went, oh, hey, look, the world's ending. That's amazing. So I had a real interesting time trying to figure out, like, what is banking and what am I doing? And at the time I actually was out west and lived in Seattle. and became a credit union member of BECU. So that was 2008. I've been a part of a credit union since then. I'm a member right now of 3 different credit unions. My mortgage is through a credit union, and my last auto loan was through a credit union. So I'm kind of a credit union lifer. I never knew that I was, but over now that I'm here, I realized how much I've known the movement and been around it, and just now I get to work for y'all, and it's incredibly exciting. So I want to give you, I saw the agenda, so I know you all have a lot going on. I'm going to give you a quick, brief overview of each state, so you know kind of what's happening. So essentially, right now, as we gear up for GAC, we're looking at the federal level for a lot of different things. But if you'll go to the next slide, I'm going to talk about each state real quickly, so you know what's happening on the state. But as you all know, GAC is in DC next week, so we are getting ready to head out. We actually, a bunch of us leave on Saturday to get in town to welcome y'all. If you're coming to GAC, please come by and say hello. We would love to talk to you and see what's happening in your neck of the woods. But right now, in Alabama, 2 things that we're working on, those 2 top pieces right there are the two probably the biggest pieces that we're pushing right now. The first one is trying to get titling for all-terrain vehicles, and that is not something that's happening right now in Alabama. This would be legislation that would allow that. And the bill dropped yesterday. Michelle Roth is our lobbyist and government affairs person in Alabama. She has 24 co-sponsors, which is an incredible amount of co-sponsors to have on a bill. This has been a long, hard slog. You would be probably quite amazed at the amount of people and meetings that Michelle has had to take on this bill just to get some ATV titling in Alabama. But we are pushing that this year. The other piece, and this is not dropped yet, and I'm highlighting this because it is something that we do anticipate happening. We do think this is coming pretty soon. We expect to see a bill in Alabama that would seek to prohibit credit unions from acquiring banks. We've seen this legislation in Mississippi. We've seen it pop up in Tennessee. So it is kind of all around us. And right now we are expecting this to happen in Alabama. The good news is, again, Michelle Roth, who's our lobbyist in Alabama, has been on top of this from the beginning. She's been meeting with legislators and interested parties for months now. We are prepared. We have talking points prepared. You all can know, just so you know, on the backside of things, we have action alert draft written. We have emails to legislators already drafted. We have 1-pagers ready to go. When this happens, we will be rolling out in strategic manner based on how Michelle wants to do it, a variety of things to push back. We understand how important this is to credit unions business, and we also have a really good story to tell about how credit unions in Alabama and across our footprint are serving members in underserved areas and rural areas where banks are closing branches. So for me, on the side of advocacy and grassroots piece, from my standpoint, we have an insanely good story to tell here. I kind of think it's I want to use the word, it's kind of a dumb push by the banks to go after us this way. We understand why they're doing it, but we're going to be able to tell incredible stories about the work that y'all do. And it's going to be a really good opportunity for us. But just to give you a heads up, that is coming. Don't be surprised when we see that legislation. In Georgia right now, I'm sorry, in Florida, I got my alphabet messed up. In Florida right now, what we are looking at most right now is public deposits. This will actually be on the floor tomorrow on the House of Representatives. I just literally sit across the room from Christopher Hodge, who is our government affairs lobbyist for Florida. He was talking to the governor's office this afternoon. We expect this bill to pass off the House of the floor of Representatives tomorrow. This will be the first time the standalone bill has ever passed off the floor. Last year we passed it, but we passed it on amendment. This will be a clean up and down vote. We expect that to happen tomorrow. That gives us a little bit of life in the Senate to maybe be able to bring this bill home. I'm not going to tell you it's going to happen. The Senate has been a much harder climb on public deposits. It's been a harder slog, and we are not guaranteed that anything is going to happen with this getting over the finish line in the Senate, but getting it off the House floor gives us life and gives us the ability to keep pushing this for another week or two while the legislators are in town. Outside of that, we are monitoring a bunch of things in Florida, but that's our biggest push right now. The bankers came up with a crazy bill to try to give community banks the same tax exemptions as credit unions without any of the same regulation. That has not gone anywhere, thankfully. So a lot of the things we're doing in the Florida right now is keeping things off the playing field while pushing this public deposits as far as we can. Last year, as you all may remember, interchange was huge in Florida. It was a huge, I guess it was a huge fight, I would say. And this year we were able to keep it out of both chambers. It was never introduced. That's thanks a lot to your work and to everybody pushing on this last year, that the legislators just didn't want to take it up. And in Georgia, the other thing about Florida is they're almost done. So March 8th will be the last day for that. And then for Georgia, I just talked to Sydney. I was a little like a minute late because there is right now the retailers are pushing a bill that would be a study bill around interchange, and it would study the interchange issue. But the way that it's written is it's tilted really in favor of the retailers. They would have more kind of seats on the committee that oversees this study. So we actually have put together an email and a little push today, actually over the last week or so, to push back on this study bill and try to get this thing scuttled. So we sent an email to every single legislator in Georgia today, outlining some of the problems with this idea, and then also highlighting a new congressional report that just came out that talks about how the benefits of this legislation at the federal level are limited at best and may not even, and in their words, may be unclear. So we have really good talking points on this, but the realtors, as you guys know, in Georgia, we're talking about big realtors like Home Depot, Walmart, people that have some really big corporate offices in Atlanta that are really trying to push this and get this study bill across the finish line. That's the big push right now. I would say the other thing in talking to Sydney, we're going to see something around, we did have the charter modernization go through. That is kind of already done. But the interesting thing about Georgia, and the one thing I wanted to point out for folks, is crossover day. And crossover day is tomorrow or the next day. It's this week. To be honest with you, I don't know what day it is right now. So it's this week at some point. And crossover day, for folks that don't know, is if a bill is in the House and it has not gone to the Senate yet and has not been passed out of the House, then it's dead for that session. So there's a host of things that Sydney is working on right now to keep off the table, just like we're doing in Florida. A lot of times the work on the legislative side of things is to keep bad things from happening, as opposed to trying to make really good things happen. And I know that sounds kind of, I don't want to say bleak, but it just kind of is the reality of the situation. Sometimes people think a bill is a good idea and it's really not, and we have to keep it away from ever seeing the light of day. That's a lot of what we're working on right now in Georgia. All right. And then on the other thing to push forward here and to really call everybody's attention to are some of the regulatory issues we're seeing, because everything is stuck kind of at the federal level and we're not seeing a lot of action and things move forward on the congressional level on either the Senate or the House. Right now, there's a potential of a government shutdown while we're in DC. And so as they're kind of bickering over these things and things aren't moving, what we are seeing are things happening at the regulatory agencies. So the CFPB has a letter out, has a proposed rule out right now to cap overdraft fees. We have sent every single CEO across our footprint templates on how to push back on this and to submit a letter to the CFPB asking this to not happen. It is a really slippery slope. It will directly impact member services, and on this call with friends in the House here, it is a direct threat to some of the non-interest revenue that our credit unions use to make sure we're investing in things like fraud prevention and security and all sorts of pieces like that. The other piece, the other part of that email that we sent out to folks was the Federal Reserve Board. There's a proposal out there again to cap the fee on interchange on Reg II. If you have not had a chance, or if you are interested in these two things and you want to send a letter to either the Federal Reserve or the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, feel free to email me. I'll throw my information in the chat and I can send you the templates. But every CEO, again, across our footprint should have this in their email. We sent this out about 10 days ago or so, trying to make sure that we push back on this. It is as I say, the regulatory space is where we're starting to see things move. And in that vein, the NCUA put out their supervisor priorities. I'm not going to go through every single one. I am going to highlight the consumer financial protection. Chairman Harper said at a meeting with some credit unions and with some people at the Brookings Institute that he was going to start looking at overdraft fees and at all sorts of fee programs, and he wants his agency to take a hard look at those things. They are following the suit of what some of these other regulatory agencies are doing, and they are taking a page out of some of their playbooks at the NCUA, and we are rightly, and I think rightly, and also I would say probably the right level of concern about what this is going to look like. And when we are in GAC, we have meetings with both with the NCUA, all 3 board members, to talk about this and why we are not in support of some of the priorities that he's outlining. So that is a really quick, high level sort of overview of everything that we've got going on. The last thing I will say is we are always available. If you're coming to GAC, we would love to have you and answer any questions and go more in depth on this kind of stuff. The one thing I always love to end my presentations with is this quote from Theodore Roosevelt, who's one of my favorite presidents. And I think it embodies the credit union movement and what y'all do on a day-to-day basis. And it's how I try to reflect this in the work that we do for y'all. Nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And I'm really passionate about the work that y'all do and trying to protect the way that you serve your members. And anything we can do in that vein and anything I can do from my seat to make that happen, please don't hesitate to reach out. Those are my contact information, and I'll throw it in the chat so it's easier if you want to link it. But I also wanted to reserve just a couple minutes, maybe 2 minutes, for questions. If anybody has something specific or something that they want to answer or they want to ask, I'm happy to help. If I don't know the answer, I'll make it up or I'll figure it out one way or the other.
While we wait to see if anyone has any questions, I have a quick poll that I was going to present. And this is just really to remind you guys that our advocacy team is always ready to talk to the chapters and to give updates, help with legislative nights, things like that. So I am launching a poll to see how many of the chapters have already reached out to our advocacy team to either schedule a legislative night or just to have an advocacy update at one of their meetings.
Karen. Hold on one second. I'm doing fine. I want to make sure I'm mute. I'm on mute at another call. That's on.
If anyone has any questions, now's a great time to ask Matt. He's a great speaker. He does a great job at giving the updates. I know he's done it at several of our meetings now. So.
Hey, Matt, this is Margie
Hey.
with Associated Credit Union and also with the Greater Atlanta Credit Union chapter. And I know Sydney and I have looked at the with the retailers who are trying to ask for the state of Georgia for payments to change and not charge interchange on the sales tax portion of the transaction. That keeps going like on and off the table. And I was just wondering, the last time I was with Sydney that the bill was kind of killed, but I didn't know, is that back on the table now?
So the legislation is not currently on the table, like knock on wood of this
Okay.
table that I was, but what is on the table, and I should clarify this, is a study. So the study would allow them to basically put together a committee of people that would look at the issue and then send out a report to the legislature saying, if you change the payment system and the interchange system, here's what would happen. Why we're concerned about that and why we don't want that to go through is the retailers have stacked that committee where it would have basically one person from the financial services kind of realm to sit on that, and the rest would be like a gas station realtor person, a big box retailer, and then like, so say there are 5 seats, 4 of them would be people who are friendly to the retailer's arguments, and 1 would be our side. And so for us, we just think that that's kind of unfair. And so Sydney's went in and talked to leadership on both sides of the house, both sides of the legislature, I should say. And I can say this confidently, and hopefully Sydney won't get mad at me, but she has told us that basically leadership on both sides of the legislature are kind of sick of hearing about this, and they are trying to get it off the table, and they don't really want to do anything with it. They see why it's an issue and why it's such a problem and how much it would harm the system and everything like that.
Mhm.
But you still have retailers who have friends who want to do things like this study to keep the issue alive. And that's kind of what they're doing. This study just kind of keeps the issue in the air. But the other thing about it too, and the other, most studies that we've seen and why we sent the email today have said the opposite. And so what we're concerned about is if they put together a study committee and they come out with like conflicting report, it's going to be harder for us to say, well, we have all these reports that say the opposite. It just gets into like a back and forth that we don't really want to be a part of.
Right. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks for that, Matt. Thanks for everyone who participated in the poll. And as I share the results with you guys, Matt, it looks like you can look forward to getting contacted by a few more folks, because there's a few more that haven't contacted you guys that will likely be contacting in the future. So also remember, for those YPs that are on the call, the advocacy team's always happy to talk at a YP event as well. So don't hesitate to reach out.
Yeah, and thanks everybody again for hosting us and letting me jump on and talk all things advocacy. Like I say, we're infinitely reachable. You can text, you can call, send a smoke signal, carrier pigeon. We're incredibly happy to talk to y'all and come to any event that we can. Sydney was just in South Georgia last night doing a chapter event in Valdosta. So if you need us and we can make it work with the schedule, we will be there.
Awesome. Appreciate you, Matt. You did a great job. Thanks so much. And with that, we will go ahead and turn this over to Bobby. She's going to talk to us about the foundation and some of the great things they have going on.
Hey folks, how are you doing this afternoon? Glad I could hop on. I'm going to just share just a couple of things and highlight a few things about the foundation. So I don't know if you guys are aware, but the foundation has been going through a little bit of an evolution where we're really trying to hone in and know where our impact can have the greatest reach. And so we are kind of working on that this year with a little focus on disaster resilience, of course, credit union employee enrichment, community impact, and then of course, sustaining and then diversifying our revenue sources just to make sure that we're always there and available to provide the help that our credit unions need. So moving forward, so one of the biggest things we did that we launched last year and we're continuing into this year is our growth and impact programs, which is just a fancy way to say our grants. So we've got a couple of different granting opportunities, which I want to highlight our community impact grants because those are available to our chapters. So really, those are really there to help you guys be able to expand your reach and your fundraising efforts into the your opportunities that you're looking for in your communities and your community outreach. Susan, if you want to go on to the next slide. So the deadline for that is March 28th, and I promise it is a pretty easy application to fill out. I'm trying to do 2 things at once, and I was trying to put the link in here too. So give me a second so I can do that. There we go. I put the link in the chat. So please go check it out. Our funding priorities when it comes to the chapters are really going to focus on the financial wellness and education piece, but that can really be wrapped up into many of your community and outreach efforts. So that's promoting financial literacy, housing, food insecurity, affordable housing, food bank support, nutrition education, just anything that focuses on removing the barriers to economic and social advancement. So I would hope that you guys would think of us and reach out to us as you're planning this year and what your community involvement would be, what your fundraisers are going to be. Look to us to be able to help expand those resources for you and really help in those fundraising efforts for your communities. So that's the biggest one, and I will fly by some of the rest of these just so you have an awareness from the credit union side too. Go ahead, Susan, flip it on over. So our credit union, oh, go back one, sorry, I didn't see that. Credit union development grants, those are also available, and those are going to be for some of your credit unions to help with equipment, technology, marketing, succession planning, and then any innovation projects you may have. Any ways that you can enhance your programs and services to your members, we are here to help support that for you guys with a maximum grant amount of $2,500. So please go back to your credit unions, talk to all the powers that be, think about something that you would want to work on and do within your credit union and get those to me. We're happy to entertain all ideas. Oh, I'll get that to you in just a second, Jessica. And then the professional development grants. So those we have had ongoing forever. So those are still our opportunity for credit union staff and volunteers to attend educational events, whether hosted by the League or America's Credit Union. We want you to be able to advance your professional careers within the credit union industry and want to help you do that. So Jessica had the question of, so that it usually takes about 3 weeks or so to have those reviewed. And then those should be out to you. I do ask for a little grace. I'm just one individual right now, so I may be a little bit behind, but I will try to get those professional development grants reviewed and out to everybody as soon as possible. So you should be hearing something, Jessica, shortly on those as well. And then for the professional development grants, those are on a reimbursement basis. So you go ahead and you attend and you put up the money, and then we reimburse you for that. So, and then I just want to just briefly remind you guys that we do have some financial wellness programs available, our financial counseling training program, our Bite of Reality app, and then of course some links to additional resources we have. So please check those out when you can. Moving on. Go ahead, Susan, one more. And then, of course, we can't forget our disaster resilience program. We're always there to support you guys in your times of need. And anytime there's a national disaster and in the wake of that, please look to us to help support your staff and your volunteers. And I want to say a big thank you to all of the chapters and all the credit unions on the call today. I know you guys have all supported us in the past in some way or another, and we couldn't do it without you guys. And I would also like to give a shameless plug and say I am happy to come speak at any chapter meeting about our foundation in a little bit more depth. I promise I won't be as quick as I was today. I just feel like I wanted to hit the highlights for you guys and talk about what the foundation has to offer and how we can support our chapters and our credit unions moving forward. All right, I think that was mine. Any questions for me about the grants, about anything?
So I just launched a new poll too. Oh, I launched the wrong poll. Leave it to me. Okay, we're going to launch this poll about the community impact grant. So do you guys already have ideas of how you could use that community impact grant for your chapter? And please share some ideas in the chat to get some conversation going. And don't forget, there's a Starbucks card in for the most chatty person.
And the crazier the idea, the better. I want to see some innovative ideas coming out. Come on, Margie, you must have a good idea.
Don't be afraid to come off mute either.
I know the Birmingham chapter is already excited about brainstorming some ways that we can put that to use when we get together next month. So looking forward to that.
And question.
Absolutely. Bobby, we're going to keep you real busy. Don't worry.
I'm down. I'm totally down for that. Please keep me busy. Oh, Jennifer, I
Came and
can't hear you.
spoke. Huh? You can't hear me?
Oh, I can now.
Okay. Bobby came and spoke at our chapter meeting last week, and Susan was there as well. And it was really well received from everybody. And I know from people that attended just from our credit union, I really haven't talked to the other credit unions since then, that everybody learned something that night. I know my neighbor here has already applied for a professional development grant. And people were super excited about what they learned that night. So if you guys can add Bobby to one of your chapter meetings as a speaker, I think it's very well received. And I think our credit unions just need to learn these things and what's available to them. They just don't know. So my 2 cents.
I couldn't agree more, Jennifer, and thank you so much for sharing. We are so lucky to have such an expert like Bobby on our team with the foundation, and somehow she always gets a new and creative joke in there somehow, no matter how many times I've heard her speak. And for
I was
any
just about to say that she's an engaging speaker and she had everybody's attention. Usually you'll look around because I sat there and watched and people are on their phones or doing something. She had the complete crowd engaged for the entire time she was up there. So kudos
Well,
to
and
her.
after hours, that's a feat. That is a feat.
Yeah, well, thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate that. But I did enjoy speaking and I love always talking about the foundation. So if you're ever down a speaker, need somebody, give me a holler. I will always be happy to do that.
Thank you, Bobby.
Okay.
And for anyone who answered no to the poll question, hopefully here soon you'll have the chance to really be thinking about a couple ideas, but our team would love to help brainstorm on how we can put this grant opportunity to use for each of your chapters and also in your credit union basis too. But chapters specifically, if you are one of these who entered no, we would love to set up some time just to talk through how we can put together an application there. And my last tidbit, Bobby wasn't kidding when she said the application is very easy. We may be familiar with like minimum word requirements. It's maximum. So we can all thank her for those great words on the application.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Bobby. And the member engagement team's always happy to help out, but also take this back to anyone on your board who isn't there. Make sure you're brainstorming about what you can do. Don't let these funds go to waste for those grants. And with that, if no one has any more questions for Bobby, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Terry Hall, and she's going to give us our compliance update. So Terry, take it away.
Thank you so much. And to hopefully stay on task, I want to give an overview, not to minimize the importance of any of this, but to give a nod and reassure those of you that are experiencing a lot of fraud. That seems to be the number one question that we are getting, requests for assistance, requests for information on regulations. How do we respond? How do we deal with disputes and that sort of thing in the compliance area? The most current information I could find that nationwide fraud losses top 10 billion with a B for last year. Now, granted, that's not just credit unions, that's straight from Federal Trade Commission, but I want you to know you're not alone in your shop. I know this is really busy, but at the same time, I thought it was a really good summary, and you can see what is most impactful in your region, in your credit union, with your membership, what your staff is hearing and seeing and dealing with every day, how many fraud reports, 2.6 million fraud reports taken in. Again, there's a lot more because we all know there's a lot more fraud going on than what is reported to the Federal Trade Commission. But just give you perspective, this is just what they know about. Scammers, they're not going away anytime soon. So I thought this was a good way to see how that is growing. Just business imposters in 2 years, the amount of millions of dollars that it's almost doubled. So I want you familiar with what is going on out there, and we are here to assist, do risk assessments, see how your procedures stack up, what you can do in your credit union to assist your members to prevent and to hopefully recoup some losses and to educate. So if you can go to the next slide. I think that's what I've tried to condense down as much information as I could. But how can credit unions protect themselves and their members from such losses? Because you may think, well, they should have known better. First, prioritize member education. On hindsight's 2020, and a lot of people don't even want to admit that they've been scammed or they fell for something. But we want to be their advocate, be there for them, reassure them, and really educating your staff to be able to help them recognize how to be empathetic, and help them avoid and staff to recognize potential fraud. Even for the members who have not or don't realize that they have been scammed yet, what we can do to prevent the credit union as a whole, because yes, we're not for profit, but we are there for all members to make sure they're aware of what is out there. Nobody is immune to this happening. Age, gender, socioeconomic status, anything. We are all exposed to it. So make sure you are prioritizing member education. You say, oh, we've got these pamphlets laid out. Okay, that may be fun, but does your staff even understand what those pamphlets say? Are they able to have conversations with members that, this doesn't smell right, I see this activity, let's just have a nice conversation while you're still, being efficient, waiting on your members, but making sure your staff knows when to engage further and assist members in the contact center, in the lobby, applying for a loan, whatever it may be. Make sure you're investing. If you'll come back one. There you go. Invest in innovative solutions to counteract different fraud. Make sure your technology is where it needs to be. Yes, everything's expensive, but is it really worth your reputational risk and not investing in that? And you may lose that much and a whole lot more in losses to your credit union. And on top of that, the reputational risk, all it takes is one member that says they didn't help me or they didn't tell me I had this kind of activity going on. Of course, some members will not tell the whole story, that they actually contributed themselves. They may not want to share that, but you need to look at the whole picture. What can you invest in solutions to prevent? That prevention is worth an ounce of cure. And we can continue to tag on to Matt and all the things that we're covering on the advocacy side. How can we continue to lobby for policy changes or to ensure there aren't changes to good policies to prevent fraud, to make sure there's interchange, unintended consequences. Make sure you're plugged in and ask yourself, if these changes go through, don't think you're on an island and it won't affect you or affect your members. Look at the totality the impact it may have on all of your members and therefore your whole credit union. Okay, next slide. I just threw together some very quick resources. We'll not go through them all, but these are some that you as management of your credit union, your board, but your staff, your frontline staff, your contact center need to be familiar with these websites and to be able to assist and pass on to members where they can go. If it's, I see it starts off with prevention. What is identity theft? Knowing what you're dealing with. And there's Federal Trade Commission. You have your do not call list. And then if it does happen, where to report fraud, and then reporting to the FBI. Those are just some primary websites that you need to have in your back pocket when it comes to fraud. Okay. Credit unions help to cover costs when a member incurs fraud. Again, continued investment in payment technologies to identify and prevent possible fraud. There's increased focus in our NCUA examinations to see what you're doing to thwart the cyber criminals and eliminate fraud. So not only from a member service standpoint, but when the dreaded examiners come in, that is and will always be, I never see that going away, just like BSA. Never see those things going away of what they're going to be looking for, because this is a topic that is not going to let up anytime soon. Still, also remember, I wanted to give a nod to Senate Bill 1838, your Credit Card Competition Act. That's would lower your big box business cost, but it's going to decrease revenue for card issuing financial institutions. So, I'm preaching to the choir here. That revenue is needed to maintain your system improvements, ensure you have your online transaction safety, mitigate your consumer fraud losses, and to be able to afford or offer your affordable financial service products to your consumers. That bill exposes you all to increased vulnerability by allowing credit card transactions to be routed through an alternate network. And it contains explicit requirement that these card issuers enable all types of transactions and security protocols, even if we find the methods are unnecessary, unfavorable, or unsecure. We may say these methods, if you allow them, you're going to expose this credit card information to bad actors or people that aren't regulated like we are. So just trying to tie the two together of fraud losses, how the advocacy, what we can do to ensure these things do not change. But those are two areas, staying plugged in to see what policy changes that could be out there. Okay, next slide. And I wanted to do a quick nod. Hopefully you all saw yesterday the announcement that came out yesterday about Bill Berg's retirement. His luncheon was today, and his last official day is next Wednesday, after 35 years starting out with Florida's Credit Union League and now LSCU, of course. But hopefully over the past year I've been here, Matt and I started on the same day, coincidentally, January the 9th, I think it was, of 2023. But we have worked to make sure that we were ready for this day and moving the department forward and making sure we don't want to assume any of you know what all we offer. And frankly, it's so much as things that we take for granted. And even within the association, we may take for granted. There is a weekly newsletter that goes to all compliance related individuals, and it goes to all CEOs. I was just proofing the weekly draft that'll be coming out tomorrow, right before we got on this call. There is a lot in there, and I know we're all very busy, but I would encourage you to keep those maybe in a different inbox folder. Go back and look at it when you have the need or a question with something in there that will help, because we extract a lot of information that we get. We include what a summary is of a lot of compliance emails that we get, questions. We try to get, that's where we come up with our FAQs on there. At the end are the advocacy requests for comments. There's a lot that is thrown in there, and it is weekly. So hopefully you don't think of it as overkill, but it is a wonderful resource. And at any time, please reach out to us. If there's something that you want us to include or you see that we're overlooking, we want to make sure that is your go-to resource, is that Compliance Weekly e-newsletter. And like I mentioned, that compliance at lscu.coop, that is for assistance, where we can answer compliance, regulatory questions. We have a primary person that checks that, but the rest of the team is on standby to assist if that person's out, and or a specialized question where we can get the right resources. We prioritize to have an answer back within 24 hours, But if we have to do further research, we'll at least acknowledge and let you know we are getting specific information for you. So let me know if there is something that has not been answered in a timely fashion, or in to the extent that it needs to be. And I'm Terry. I'll put in the chat my email address. And you can let me know if you end up with any specific thing that you want to follow up with. Like Bobby, I have to do it while I'm thinking about it or it won't get done. That you can contact me anytime and let me know. And notice Terry does have one R. Our online compliance resources, we have those. Then we have our fee-based services. You will see there are so many things on here. That complimentary, meaning it's dues supported. We have Policy Pro, we have training webinars, we have our compliance calendar. And when that newsletter comes out weekly, that will cover things in that month. It'll carve out just that month. But at the bottom of the newsletter, you can click on the entire calendar and see what you need as compliance professionals to make sure your systems are in place and that you're meeting deadlines you need to meet. Okay, I don't want to skip any, so we need the next slide. I don't have them memorized either. Oh yes, our CPRs, those quarterly summaries that are pulled from call reports. Hopefully you're very familiar with those. If you need more information, let me know. And then our fee-based services, our shared compliance consulting program, as you saw, Tony is now manager. He's been functioning as that in that area, but he is now officially the manager of our compliance consulting program, with contracts for one-off projects all the way to 40 hours a week, or your full compliance officer. We are making sure we are meeting the needs based on the size of your credit union, based on the resources you already have, whatever that might be. ComplySite and Affirmex, those are software programs that can help you with your compliance management program. And again, we are the support. We resell that from League Info Site, but we are there to support and answer questions daily that you may have with those products. So anything that you're not familiar with, need additional training, just need a little hand holding and how to see how it works and what to do with it, please you can still email us at the compliance@lscu.coop or email address and let us know. And then there's always the council, the ERM council. That's to be our little network, large network, maybe not so little, but exchange ideas, have resources, have different contacts as we're all trying to manage the risk that we have daily. Sorry, I feel like I'm still at a credit union. You all have daily that we help you with, that you're trying to deal with every day. We want to be there to help you and assist you. And the fee is only to be on the council. Your support and our daily support of that's not a separate fee. That's part of your dues. And
Terry,
then here's our team.
Sorry,
Yes.
really quick. Just wanted to ask a quick question. So you said that the compliance questions we might have is based off of, it's not a per fee off of like the type of questions we have or inquiries, anything like that. It's once we participate in the council, then we can bounce questions off of the compliance team. Okay. Because our compliance officer just retired. And so we are looking to replace him, but that's I would like some information, like how they would be able to how we would be able to sign up if we wanted to do that.
Sure. And I'll tell you the quickest way is to email that compliance@lscu.coop. Our primary person that manages that is right there in the middle, Keela Wingard, and she is in charge of the ERM council. So you have a 2-for-1 by emailing that address, and she can get you the information for them to join the council. But yes, you wouldn't have to wait until there's a council meeting to ask a question, just to clarify. That's where you can share with others on that council. But if you have a specific question, you can send that to the compliance@lscu.coop and somebody will get back with you. But yes, until you get someone hired in that role, we can talk to you, as credit unions are finding out, it is hard to find that expertise. So we even have some credit unions that are on a short to midterm, it depends on how long it's going to be, contract that is fee-based if you need that in the interim. But your one-off questions, or when you get somebody on staff for them to ask a question, that is part of dues. That is not a separate fee. And excellent question. It took me a while to kind of figure out where one started, one stopped as well. So I want to make sure everybody has that and has our contact information.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, Margie.
All right.
And
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I was going to say, any questions overall you can put in the chat. Okay, Alicia put that in there. Perfect. So that's all I have, unless someone has a specific question.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Terry. That was great. And I know fraud is at the top of all our minds right now, so we appreciate that update, and always going over the services. So now we're going to move on, if there's no other questions, to the upcoming chapter events that you guys are having. I just listed them out for March and April. You guys have so much going on. Northeast Florida has a really neat event coming up called Teens and Money. It's going to be held on a Saturday. Very anxious to see how this event turns out. And I'm even hoping, Michelle, I haven't talked to you about it yet, but maybe you'll have the opportunity to share a little about it at the upcoming chapter leaders retreat. So we definitely would love to hear about that. Broward chapter's got a good couple meetings coming up. Tallahassee chapter's got their annual golf tournament coming up. And Birmingham's got the annual meeting. Chiha chapter has a dinner. Gulf Coast got a chapter dinner. Central Florida has a chapter dinner where Samantha Beeler will be speaking at. Southernmost has an AI panel coming up. Middle Georgia's got a chapter dinner. And I really just want to remind you guys to make sure that you're letting us know about all your chapter events so we can get them added to our chapter calendar. You can email it directly to the member engagement email address here, or you can also submit it online. Either way is perfectly fine. They're all going to get posted either way. So just make sure that you're sharing those with us. And hopefully I didn't miss anybody. But if I did, that may mean it's not on our chapter calendar. So make sure you get us the information. And then as Alicia mentioned already, we do have a new updated version of our Speakers Bureau located in the chapter toolkit. I encourage you guys to take a look at it. There are many things that have been removed, but in addition, so many things have been added. So we've got a lot of different speaking options, whether it's the LSCU team directly or some of our partners throughout the industry. So please take a look at it when you're looking for speakers to plan out those meetings. And if you ever need help, just know you can always reach out to the member engagement team also to help you out with choosing some good speakers. I also wanted to highlight just some fun pictures from the fourth quarter. So there were so many holiday events that took place. I want to just share a couple of those briefly. And we're just going to go through quick because in the interest of time, I want to make sure that you guys get off of here in time. But there is a lot of great things going on. Central Florida chapter active once again. Remember, the pillars of success is going to be leadership, education, advocacy, and philosophy and action. So we appreciate all that you guys do for us. Jennifer Gerson with Southernmost chapter was going to speak, but she had to jump off the call unexpectedly. So we're going to hear from her a little later. Please make sure to mark your calendars for the Chapter Leaders Retreat, August 6th and 7th. It's going to be on the front end of our Vision Conference in Miramar Beach, Florida. So there will be more details to come in the very near future, but make sure you're saving that date right now. And we are very much looking forward to seeing it. And just a brief overview of what's happening at the Vision Conference. Also, if it's a good tie-in for you to stay along a little longer, we'd love to have you join us at that conference as well. We're going to have a lot of great speakers and engaging activities. There'll be another Shark Tank this year. And don't forget Bobby's Glow in the Dark Bingo. So quick shout out about the Chapter Leaders Connect group. I'm going to follow up with an email. It's going to have the link to the Connect group. We're going to share the recording as well as the slides to the presentation. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Alicia, and she's going to talk to us about chapter evolution.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Susan. And I wanted to come on for a quick update on our continued evolution of chapters. And just as our original chapter evolution began back in 2020, we are continuing to listen to the feedback of you all who run your chapters. So you might recall that going back a few years, we did have our changes to our chapter boundaries that were set with an overall goal of saying, if a credit union wants to participate in a chapter, we want to ensure that that's an active chapter. And what that meant was having to expand some of those geographic boundaries. After we were able to have a year of normalcy post-pandemic under our belt, we have continued to stay close to ensure that any changes or additional edits to those boundaries are in the best interest of our chapters. So as such, we are excited to announce that we will be unmerging the Wiregrass chapter and the Gulf Coast chapter. So 2 different states here. Wiregrass will go back to being within the Alabama state line boundaries, and then Gulf Coast will go back to the Florida Panhandle boundaries. And if there are any additional changes, if there are things within your chapter boundaries, chapter boards, chapter bylaws, please know that this is all based off of what will work best for you, and our entire team is open ears to those revisions. And as such, one other quick exciting heads up is that the other change was that based on the feedback we received, we also found that some credit unions who may not really be close to anyone, or for one reason or the other, are unable to attend or have their staff attend those events in person. So as such, LSCU will be launching a virtual chapter this year to help cover any of those outlying credit unions, whether it is more staff who are working outside of the footprint and working remotely that became a trend during COVID, or also in capturing some of those team members who may not be able to attend due to other commitments. Know that that will be coming shortly. We will have more to come, and LSCU will be selecting those speakers and ensuring that everyone across the board has that information. So more to come there. And Margie, the chapter leaders retreat will be on the front end of the Vision Conference. That is going to be August 6th and 7th. Immediately following will be the conference at the same location, same week, August 7th through 9th in Miramar Beach. So I know we are right at 3 o'clock, and out of respect for everyone's time, I don't want to hold anyone up, but let me check the chat. And Susan, if you wouldn't mind transitioning to the next slide, please. While we have just a moment left, are there any additional questions, concerns, things that you are seeing within your own chapters that we can get some feedback from the entire group? And remember, we also have the virtual Connect platform where you can do questions like this at your own pace. Thank you, Chris. Glad to hear you like the virtual chapter. Thank you, Bobby. Jessica, will this include credit unions that are far away from their current chapter? Could they be part of both? Yes, we will be reviewing that with each individual chapter to ensure that it does not take away from any attendance of your main chapter in any way. Terry pulled some even more additional great compliance information, and I will stop jibber jabbering now to give space for any questions. All right, Susan, take us home.
All right. Well, as promised, we are going to give out a Starbucks gift card to the most active participant, and we have decided that was Margie. So be checking out in your email, and you're going to get a Starbucks virtual gift card. So keep an eye out for that. Should come over later today. Thanks for your participation, and we really encourage you all to make the most of these meetings. Sorry, your discussion time got cut a little short. We're happy to hang on as long as you want. But in the interest of everyone's time, I think that's all we've got. Thank you to all our speakers. We appreciate you all so much, and we look forward to hearing more ideas from you guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for your leadership in your chapters. We look forward to seeing you at your next event.
You're very welcome.
Chris, I see your message on getting more involved. I will be reaching out to you after this call and we'll schedule some time. If you are still on, hopefully I'm not talking to myself. Maybe so. Thank you all.
All right. Thank you all. Have a great day.